This story is about me, a young man, who falls deeply in love with my best friend, yet my shyness holds me back from confessing my feelings. Through the milestones of our lives, high school, prom, graduation, and even her wedding, I remained by her side, silently longing for a love I believed is one-sided. I loved her silently for years, watching her fall for everyone, but I, never brave enough to speak the truth. But one day at a funeral, a diary surfaces, revealing a shocking secret kept hidden all along that changed my life forever. Stick around until the end of this story, where a special surprise awaits my amazing viewers and subscribers. You won't want to miss it. The story begins during our 10th grade. As I sat there in English class, I couldn't help but steal glances at the girl beside me. She was my so-called best friend, a label I cherished and dreaded at the same time. Her long, silky hair seemed to shimmer under the fluorescent lights, and her laugh, it had a way of lighting up even the dullest mornings. I wished she were mine, but deep down, I knew she didn't see me that way. After class, she turned to me, her eyes sparkling as she asked for the notes she'd missed the day before. I handed them to her, our fingers brushing briefly. "Thanks," she said, and then, without warning, she leaned in and kissed me on the cheek. My heart raced. I wanted to tell her, to confess that being just friends wasn't enough for me. But the words stuck in my throat. Why was I so shy? Why couldn't I just say it? I could not forget a moment when we were in 11th grade. The phone rang late one evening, pulling me out of my homework haze. It was her. Her voice, usually so cheerful, was now trembling with tears. She poured out her heartbreak over the boy she thought she loved, her words tumbling out in fragments. "Can you come over?" she asked. I don't want to be alone." I was at her house in minutes. We sat on the sofa, a pile of crumpled tissues growing between us as a Drew Barrymore movie played in the background. I wanted to reach out, to hold her hand and tell her she didn't need anyone else because I was there. But instead, I sat quietly, listening, supporting her in the only way I knew how. When she finally smiled again, she looked at me with those soft, tear-streaked eyes. "Thanks," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, before giving me a kiss on the cheek. I wanted to tell her then. I wanted her to know that I didn't want to be just her friend. But once again, I stayed silent. Prom season arrived with its usual frenzy of excitement and stress. One afternoon, she walked up to my locker, looking exasperated. "My date is sick," she said. "He's not going to prom. Remember our deal from 7th grade? If neither of us had dates, we'd go together." Of course, I remembered. So, that night, we went together, just as best friends. Under the sparkling lights of the gym, we danced, laughed, and made memories I'd hold on to forever. When the night ended, I walked her to her doorstep. She turned to me, her smile brighter than the stars above. "I had the best time. Thanks for being my date," she said. And then, like so many times before, she kissed me on the cheek. I stood there, frozen, as she disappeared inside. The words I longed to say were stuck in my chest. Time flew by, and before I knew it, we were standing on the brink of adulthood. On graduation day, I watched her walk across the stage, her cap tilted slightly to the side, her gown flowing like angelic wings. She was radiant, and once again, I wished she were mine. After the ceremony, she found me in the crowd. Tears streamed down her face as she hugged me tightly. "You've always been there for me. I don't know what I'd do without you," she said. Her words were a dagger to my heart, a bittersweet reminder of what we were and what we'd never be. She pulled back, smiled, and, one last time, kissed me on the cheek. I wanted to stop her, to make her see how much I loved her, but I didn't. Years later, I found myself sitting in a pew, watching her walk down the aisle. She was breathtaking in her white gown, glowing with happiness as she married someone else. My chest tightened with a mix of pride and pain. After the ceremony, she spotted me in the crowd. "You came!" she exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. She hugged me, her arms warm and familiar. "Thanks for always being there," she said, and just like that, she kissed me on the cheek. I smiled, hiding the heartbreak that had become my constant companion. I wanted to tell her, but I knew it was too late. Decades passed, and life moved on. Then came the day I stood before her coffin, my heart heavy with grief. She had been my best friend, my secret love, my everything. At the service, her family read from an old diary they'd found among her belongings. As they turned the pages, her words filled the room. I stare at him, wishing he was mine, but he doesn't notice me like that, and I know it. I want to tell him. I want him to know that I don't want to be just friends. I love him, but I'm just too shy, and I don't know why. I wish he would tell me he loved me. Tears streamed down my face as her words sank in. All those years, we'd both been too afraid to speak, too shy to risk the friendship we cherished. And now it was too late. As I left the service, I couldn't help but wonder how different life might have been if either of us had spoken up. If there's one thing I've learned from loving her, it's this: never let fear silence your heart. Life is too short to keep love unspoken. What are your thoughts about the story? If you like it, please like, share, and subscribe. Hold on. Here's the exciting part. Help this story shine by dropping your best title in the comments. If we hit 500 views and 500 subs by February 1st, 2025, the winning title will earn $10 as my heartfelt thank you. See you in my next story.